Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about some of my recent reads as well as telling you some books that are currently on my TBR list. So if you've watched any of my old wrap-up videos then you might know that I used to do them every 3 months, so I would read books in January, February and March, and then sometime in April I would tell you about those books that I read over those 3 months. The reason I did those videos every 3 months and not every month is because first of all I wasn't sure how many books I was going to be reading each month, and also because I only post one video a week I wasn't sure if it was going to get too repetitive for you guys. So I've decided to change up the format of this a little bit, so every 3 or 4 months I'll still be posting a video like this, but I'll be talking about recent reads. So I'm not going to tell you about every single book that I've read over the last 3 months, it's just a few that I want to talk to you about. And then at the end I will still be sharing with you some books that are currently on my TBR list. So I'm going to be talking to you about 5 books that I've read recently and then giving you 5 books that are currently on my TBR list, but before I get started I just want to talk to you about these 3 books. First of all, I have The Exact Opposite of OK by Laura Stephen, and I will talk about this one in this video, but last week I posted a book review on this one, so there's not much point in me repeating myself. So if you want to find out more about my thoughts on this book, then I will leave the link in the description box for you. The other 2 books that I really quickly just want to mention are Savage Island by Bryony Pierce and Renegades by Marissa Meyer. The reason I'm not going to talk about these 2 books in this video is because I have blog post reviews for them, so again if you're interested in finding out anything else about these 2 books then I'll leave the links in the description box for you. Okay, so now let's get on to talking about 5 of my recent reads. The first book I want to talk about is The Sun is Also a Star by Nicolai. I read this book back in February for the Foyles YA book group that I attend. I've actually owned this book for almost a year now, I just never got around to picking it up until February. And I'm so glad that I finally got around to picking it up because I absolutely loved it. I really liked that it was set in New York because I really enjoy any book that's set in New York. I also really loved the characters in this story and I liked that it was told from dual perspectives as well. If you're a fan of Nicolai Yoon's Everything Everything then I definitely recommend that you pick this one up. It has her same fantastic writing style and a different unique storyline. And I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Another book that I read recently is one that I've heard a lot of people talking about, and that is To Kill a Kingdom. I've often seen this book described as a dark retelling of The Little Mermaid and I can completely understand why. This story is about Lyra, who is a siren and she's under the control of the Sea Queen, and then you have a prince as well who's hunting sirens. I love the way that Lyra and the prince come together in this story, but I won't speak about it too much because I don't want to give away any spoilers. I would recommend this book to fans of Sarah J Maas because I think Lyra is very similar to Aelin in the Throne of Glass series, and also because A Court of Thorns and Roses is often called a dark retelling of Beauty and the Beast, I think you would also really enjoy this one because it's another dark fairy tale retelling. Again, I absolutely loved this and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Another book that I want to talk to you about is Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. The reason I read this one so recently is because the film Love, Simon, which is based on the story of Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, has only just been released in cinemas over here in the UK. If you would like to read the short film review that I wrote for it over on my blog, then I will leave a link in the description box for you. This isn't the first book that I've read by Becky Albertalli and I probably would say it wasn't my favourite. I really enjoyed The Upside of Unrequited. But that's not to say that I didn't enjoy this book because I really did. I really liked the character of Simon and I loved reading the email exchanges between him and Blue. I definitely recommend this book and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The 4th book that I want to talk to you about is one of my favourite reads of the year so far, and I know I've only read just over 20 books, but I feel like this one is going to be right up there in my top 10 by the end of the year. And that book is More Than We Can Tell, which is by the same author of Letters to the Lost, which I absolutely loved reading last year. I was very lucky to be sent an advance copy of this on my Kindle through NetGalley, so thank you very much for that. But I do really need to buy my own paperback copy of this one because I feel like this is going to be an author where I'm going to end up buying all of their books. So although I've heard this is being classed as a standalone book and not a continuation, this book does follow a character that we meet in Letters to the Lost. I loved that this book used characters from Letters to the Lost because not only did we get to follow a different character's path, but we also got little bits of Declan and Juliet in there as well. So I would recommend reading Letters to the Lost before you read More Than We Can Tell, but I think you can still read it on its own. I devoured this book in just a couple of days. I was absolutely hooked on this one. I really could not put it down. Like I said, I'm pretty confident that this book is going to be in my top 10 by the end of the year. It's definitely one of my favourites that I've read so far. It's probably one of my all-time favourite YA contemporaries as well. I definitely recommend it, and obviously I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. That's the only problem with sitting on the floor. I keep getting pins and needles. I get to a certain point and then I can't sit with my legs crossed anymore, so I'm going to have to sit a little bit wonky for the rest of the video. And the final book that I've read that I want to talk to you about today is New York Actually by Sarah Morgan. I'm a huge fan of Sarah Morgan's writing. I think this is the 6th or 7th book that I've read by her, and I still have other ones that I haven't read yet. I also have a couple of Christmas books by her that I haven't read yet, but obviously I'm not going to be reading them anytime soon, but I will certainly be picking them up in December. As I've already mentioned when I spoke about The Sun is Also a Star, I love books that are set in New York, and clearly from the title you can tell this one is also set in New York. This book is part of a series as well, so I do recommend that you start from the beginning, although I have heard people say that you can read them individually anyway. My favourite book by Sarah Morgan is actually a Christmas one, but New York Actually is now my favourite non-Christmas book by her. Just like in the book More Than We Can Tell, which I just spoke to you about, in New York Actually we get to meet characters that we previously met in other books. I just adored the characters in this book, I loved the romance, and I should also mention that this book is not classed as YA, it is women's fiction, so it may not be suitable for younger readers. But I thoroughly enjoyed this and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, so those were 5 books that I've read recently that I wanted to talk to you about, and now let's get on to 5 books that are currently on my TBR list. First up, I have How to Write a Love Story by Katie Cannon. I've only ever read one book by Katie Cannon before, which was And Then We Ran, which I have a video review for, so I'll leave that link in the description box, but I have been so excited to read this one. This book hasn't actually been released yet, it's being published on the 3rd of May, but it was very kindly sent to me by Stripes Publishing, so thank you for that. I'll definitely be doing a review of this book when I've finished it, whether it's on my blog or as a video, so keep your eyes open for that if you're interested. The next book that I really want to read soon is The Last Piece of My Heart by Paige Toon. This book has been on my TBR list for almost a year now, and her new book is coming out next month, and I've told myself that I'm not allowed to buy her new book until I've read this one. I absolutely adored her book, The One We Fell in Love With, which I read a couple of years ago when it was included in the Zoella book club, and I'm desperate to read this one, I just haven't found the time yet. So I need to make some time and make sure that I pick this one up really soon. The next book on my TBR list is Some Kind of Wonderful by Giovanna Fletcher. Again, this is another book that I've owned for quite a few months now, and it's just sat on my TBR shelf and I desperately need to read it. I actually have 2 Giovanna Fletcher books on my TBR shelf that I haven't read yet, but I want to pick this one up first. I've heard so many amazing things about this one, and I love her writing style. Billy and Me and Always With Love are 2 of my favourite books, so I definitely need to read this soon. The next book on my TBR list is How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. The reason that I really want to read this one so soon is because I believe they're making this one into a film starring Benedict Cumberbatch, who is one of my favourite actors, and I really want to read the book before I see the film. I don't know if the film comes out this year or next year, but I need to make sure that I've read this book before then. And the final book on my TBR list that I want to talk to you about is probably the one that I am most excited for, and that is A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. If there is one bookish fact that you should know about me, that is that I'm a massive fan of Sarah J Maas's writing, especially the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I cannot wait for this to be released, and I have already pre-ordered my copy from my local Waterstones, so as soon as I've finished work that day I'll be driving over there to pick it up. So I have no plans for the evening of May 1st other than reading this book. So those were all of my recent reads and just a few books that are on my current TBR list. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to share your opinion or talk about any of the books that I've mentioned in this video, then you can leave a comment below, but I will also leave all of my social media links in the description box for you. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you again soon. Bye!